Well, some new reaction in Iran now that a vital link to the world financial system is broken. The crucial banking hub, SWIFT, announcing it's cutting off Iranian banks blacklisted by the EU. Now, as the EU is set to impose massive sanctions on the Islamic Republic with the goal of strangling funding to its nuclear program, we're trying to see really what the impact of this is going to be in a wide variety of different areas. Ambassador John Bolton is a former U.S. ambassador to the UN. Carl Larry is president of Oil Outlooks and Opinions, and Mark Dubowitz is the executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. It's nice to see you all pop up there, just like the Brady Bunch. Really impressive. We have a lot to get through, Carl, and I'm going to start with you first as we take a look at the oil market. It affects us each and every day. This move is unprecedented. What does this really mean for oil and gas prices?
Well, I mean, right now, the big deal is that oil's tight right now. The economies of the world are growing, and the oil supply is shrinking, and that causes a problem. So actually to see Iran come into some kind of a rock and a hard place here with their money and their income, the prices are going to follow higher. And I don't even think we've even scraped the surface of what really could be a price shock in oil prices if we lose that Iranian production.
When you say price shock, what do you mean?
Well, I think that a lot of people are thinking that the Middle East conflicts right now are priced into the price of oil, which is about $106 right now in the U.S. I think that's wrong. I think once we start seeing issues in Iran and we start seeing oil supply shut off, we're looking at $125 to $150 here in the U.S. at least for a barrel of oil.
Mark, then we have to ask the question, is it worth it? Is it worth that pain for the rest of us to do this?
Well, Jenna, it's certainly doing everything we can to stop the Iranian nuclear weapons program, but I disagree with Carl. I mean, nobody's talking about an embargo on Iranian oil. What we're talking about is turning Iranian oil into the financial equivalent of a Las Vegas McMansion, turning it into a distressed asset, making it so toxic that people will buy the oil, but they'll negotiate price discounts on every barrel, shrink Iranian oil revenue, and deny hard currency to the Iranian regime that it needs to sustain its economy, its nuclear weapons program, and its vast system of repression.
And Ambassador Bolton, there's a lot of hopes around the sanctions and that it would do in the ways that Mark explained that it might act. But as Iran is trying to figure out what to do with their own economy, we would be affected as well. So I've heard different reports that the Iranians are working around these different sanctions, and they're going to continue to do business. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. I think it's actually fairly easy for the government of Iran to evade the consequences of the SWIFT cutoff. It may be harder for individual Iranians and small businesses in Iran that do international trade. But for the government of Iran, the very simple thing to do is just not use the banks that are sanctioned or cut off. Let me give you a concrete example. India, which is not abiding by U.S. or EU sanctions, wants to purchase oil from Iran. It pays for the oil by depositing dollars in a Swiss bank account controlled by Iran. Iran wants to buy wheat, buys it from Australia, and pays it out of the same Swiss bank account, all of which will go through the SWIFT system. So I think from that perspective, the government of Iran, while it will face some additional transaction costs and inconvenience, can avoid it pretty easily.
And so, Mark, it comes back to that question again. So Iran continues to do business. We may be attempting to do certain things, but they're going to figure out a way to do business with these other countries that are not following the rules. And then at home, we have the higher oil prices, gas prices, higher food prices. Is it worth this again?
Well, again, Jen, I disagree with Ambassador Bolton. I mean, at the end of the day, the Iranians want hard currency that they can use to support their own currency, which has been in a 50% free fall. They are dealing with 40% hyperinflation. It doesn't help them if they can get Indian money to buy Indian goods. What they really need is hard currency. And in fact, the Indians have set up a great system for themselves where they can buy Iranian oil, they can keep oil markets liquid, they can keep the price of oil down for the rest of us, and the Iranians don't get the hard currency they need to sustain their economy. So yes, sanctions are never airtight. That's not the goal. The goal is to drive the hassle factor up so great that the Iranians get less money for the oil they sell, and they have to pay major premiums for the goods and services they buy.
Carl, you know, though, as attention comes up with the sanctions and otherwise, and you're shaking your head. Go ahead. Why are you shaking your head?
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, I think Mark's right. Unfortunately, we're not in a perfect world. We live on fear. We live on supply shock. We live on market shock. Financial markets don't care if a plan works. Financial markets care if the oil is there or it's not there. And if it's not there, or the Iranians decide not to ship it out, prices go up no matter what. Again, we don't want this to happen, but this is what happens.
Well, and that
Carl, they're going to sell their oil. The whole point is to actually allow them to sell their oil and replace the amount of oil that the Saudis can comfortably substitute and drive really, really strong discounts. Right now, the Chinese oil traders are getting $20 a barrel discount. So the Iranians are selling their oil.
They're negotiating that. And Ambassador, I'm going to have to run real quick, but you had a final thought?
Oil is bought and sold in dollars, not Indian rupees. The Iranians will sell oil to the Indians and get dollars, and they use their dollars for other international commodities. This does not deny them hard currency.
Ambassador Bolton, Carl, and Mark, nice to have you back. Hope to have you all back soon. We have to